Hey, Real Writers, it's Chris here, and welcome to this week's Journal with Me session. We've hit 7 weeks, so I hope this practice is helping you as it's helping me have some, like I say in the write up, sacred time for writing and journaling, and that's not focused on any sort of deadline or goal or feeling that we're not measuring up in some way, because this is journaling and anything can happen and it's only for you unless you want to share it. And so there should be no judgment. It should be a safe, sacred space. And you can interpret sacred in any way that you wish. I'm interpreting it as honoring my own creativity, my time, my feelings, and I'm going to use the word soul. That's a tricky word, but I'm going to use it. And in terms of like creative soul, and yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. So, but you can be doing it for whatever reason is sacred to you. Just having time for yourself, that is very, very important, and certainly valuable. That's part of it. So if you're new to this process, I pull usually a card and we journal on that card after we talk about it a bit. And sometimes things lend themselves more to writing than others, and sometimes I feel called to talk about writing, and sometimes I don't necessarily feel that way, because again, I don't want this to be about this time being something that sort of you're using to feed into your writing. It certainly can be, and keeping a writer's notebook, a writer's journal, is a long tradition. There's a long history of writers doing that, and those diaries and journals are great reads, by the way. You might want to get some of those and read them. It can be very inspirational or inspiring to learn that everyone has the same fears that we do, whether they're Virginia Woolf or not. So, and we all know she had a tragic end, so we're not going there, but every writer doubts himself or herself in some way. And so, but I want this to be more of a focus on what you need in this moment, what you want to share in this moment, and it may not turn into anything. So it's not about having, this isn't the threshold into a writing project, I guess is what I'm saying. So I ended up having 2 cards here, and you can write on the cards, you can write on what the cards inspire for you, which might end up being the opposite of what the cards say. Sometimes a card will be saying yes to something and we don't want to say yes to it. We want to say no. We feel no very strongly. We feel an aversion to what a card is saying, and certainly that is something to explore for sure. And then see if by the end of your journaling session you can come back around and see the yes, and sort of understand it even if you can't feel it. You don't have to, but it's a good way to bring it around, to leave an opening for that. But I am definitely all about writing whatever the card brings up for you. So I have, as you can see, for those of you who are new, I love purple. And so if a card is purple, I am automatically drawn to it. So I have several decks that have purple in them on their back, the back of the card. And though the peony that I'm sharing with you today is not purple, it's a gorgeous pink. I found some peonies, and this is the last of them, and they are absolutely divine, and I wish you could smell them. They are swoon-worthy. And I'm just burning some incense. I don't have the container with me, but it's for energizing and uplifting and inspiring us today. I am also burning an abundance candle, this wonderful pale yellow, and I will read you the affirmation that goes with it to start us off. May an abundance of goodness flow freely into my life. Allow me to be receptive to the treasures that present themselves, enriching my life's journey. So let's do that again, and you can say it with me. May an abundance of goodness flow freely into my life. Allow me to be receptive to the treasures that present themselves, enriching my life's journey. As I was reading that, the incense suddenly turned and came full at me. It was blowing in a completely different direction. It came full in my face, so sorry, I was almost coughing. So the candle is actually sort of a lemon lime color, and it is made of citronella, clove, lemon balm, nutmeg, and cinnamon. All good things. And why I have 2 cards here today is because we just crossed Summer Solstice on Friday. Happy Summer Solstice, longest day of the year. And we're at the halfway mark, and I don't know about you, but I do not necessarily remember getting here. It's like driving home when you're tired from work or somewhere else, and you just wake up, and you're not wake up literally, but you realize you're home and you can't remember the journey. But I thought I would pull 2 cards, one for where have you been and where are you going. And granted, these are 2 cards for every single person watching this video, but I did ask this question very specifically about what do you all need to know for about where you've been for summer solstice and where you're going for summer solstice. So this may resonate, these cards may resonate more with some people than others, but I'm sure you can find a connection. And I'm sure that, like I said, if you feel that this is wrong, then start there. Why is it wrong? You know, start with that question and go from there and try to dig under that a bit and see where it takes you. So something for everyone always, I'm sure. And so this new card on the left is the Soul Trees Oracle card, and they're all trees, which I have a thing about trees, and who doesn't, right? Trees are fantastic, and I had to buy them. I bought them on Etsy. They're really terrific. I will link to them in the description box if you like them. And someday I'm going to do a deck thing, go through some of my decks. But that's the Where Are You Going card. And then the second card is one we've used before, the Sacred Traveler Oracle cards by Denise, Linn. And the Soul Tree cards are by Allyson, Williams-Yee, Y-E-E. Allyson is A-L-L-Y-S-O-N. I always put the names of card decks in the description box because it really, really annoys me when people don't say what deck they're using. It just frustrates me no end. So, you know, you'll always find out from me. So let's get started because this introduction into the cards has been way too long. So let's turn over the Where Have You Been card. Okay. Perfect. Create. Right? Duh. But still, just take a moment and look at this card. It's this wonderful cobalt blue with stars and the tree reaching up into the stars. That made my heart lift a little bit. I hope it did yours as well. And the tree is very orange, which is reminiscent of the second chakra, which is the seat of creativity. This card feels very hopeful to me. So I hope it does for you too, but even if it doesn't, if you feel like create, I've been trying and it's not going anywhere and blah, blah, blah. Maybe step back from that for a second and try to connect with the hope in this card. Look at this clear, beautiful sky with all these stars. And the tree has this very active, dancing, undulating, fluid feeling to it. And it's bare, but that means it's open to anything. This tree could be anything. right? It could be a flowering tree. It could be a fruit tree. It could be any kind of tree. Anything can happen with this tree. Blank slate. Every time you sit down to write, it's a blank slate. Every day you start, when you wake up in the morning, it's a blank slate. There's a great quote by Emerson, and I don't have it written down anywhere, but it basically says, at the end of the day, be finished with your nonsense and your mistakes and leave them behind. I'll find it and I'll probably quote it below. You're probably seeing it right now. I'll put it below. And it's just, don't carry that with you. So this just feels like a very hopeful card to me. But again, if that's not your experience of it, I don't want to influence you. So sorry about that. But I'll read you what the card says. It's very brief. It is time to utilize your creativity, begin the creative project, or sign up for the class or workshop you have been thinking about. Maybe you are working on a project. Maybe you are a creator. You don't have to be a writer to be doing this journaling, these journaling sessions with me. You can not be an artist at all. I am a writer, and I do some other forms of art for fun and for myself, to indulge my creativity, to exercise my creativity, but it doesn't mean I'm going to show them anywhere. And I think everyone is creative, and there's always room for you to do something creative. If you love painting and you feel like you suck, who cares? Take a painting class. If you want to write something and you think it has to be perfect, guess what? It doesn't. Here's a newsflash. It doesn't. And you don't have to show it to anyone. So just write it. And even if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted, it doesn't matter. If you keep at something, you will get better. You will enjoy it more. And it's more about the process of creating than it is about the product. And I know that our society is much more interested in product and money and making a business out of the artist. And yes, the arts can be a business. And yes, artists should be able to make money at what they're doing. I agree with all of that. But at the heart of it is the act of creation, the act of being creative and expressing yourself. And that is extremely important and valuable in life. In expressing who you are as an individual, but also what it does for your stress levels and for your confidence and your happiness. So even if you feel like you're not someone who wants to create something, or not wants to, but you just don't feel ready or whatever, just take a class. And take a language class. It doesn't even have to be about, create a trip. Create your ideal trip that you'd like to take, and go take a class to learn some of that language, or go take a class on the history of that place or the literature of that place, or go take the trip and take classes while you're there on the food, on cooking, take tours, go on tours, walking tours, and tours of churches and houses and museums. And this is creative too. And then maybe take your journal and sit down in the church or the museum or after the class or in a plaza while you're in a cafe somewhere, and do some journaling and just write about your experience. That is there's just nothing like doing that. Going to a new place where you can be anyone and not bring who you are with you, and see what happens and see what develops, and then write that down so that when you get back and life kind of closes around you again a bit, because that's just what happens. You will be changed, things will be different, but you still have to go to your job, and you still have to pay your bills, and you still have to go to the grocery store, and you still have family members you might have issues with, and whatever. And you can make changes. Hopefully that new perspective helps you make changes. But you'll have this experience to look back on, and you can look at your journal. And if you can draw, then draw. And even if you can't draw something that you see, or pick up postcards, or take pictures that you can paste into your journal to remind you that there is always time for this expansive opening to life. You're not always stuck in a rut, in this place which you might love, but you wish for something more, or that you don't like and you want to change. So whatever popped into your head about taking a class or a workshop, or whatever it is, going on a walk, or taking a dance class, or whatever it is, out of your comfort zone, perhaps go do that. And you can write on what pops into your head here with this card, and what class you might want to take, and what that looks like. And you could do a pros and cons list if that's what you're called to do. It's fine, you can totally do that. But I guess a good question here would be, how do I feel about this call to create? Have I been creating? What have I been creating? Looking back on all you've done for the last 6 months in your life, what is the life I've created? How do I feel about that? What do I want to change? It doesn't literally have to be creating art, etc. It can be about the life you've created, the year you've created so far. What is it? What does it look like? What are you happy about? What are you not happy about? What do you want to change? And what do you feel is possible to change over the next 6 months? Okay, so the next card is, where are you going? Oh, good. So this card is passion and pleasure. And it says, savor your life. Passion and pleasure. Oops. Doesn't this look like the perfect summer night? A bonfire, dancing. This is a gypsy caravan. Or if you're me, this is a tiny house you want to live in, because I would love to move into a tiny house and live in a tiny house. That is actually a major goal of mine. I'm not necessarily a minimalist, but I would like to just dial it down and live in a tiny house, because I have lived in guest houses before and I loved it. So here's the message for passion and pleasure. Savor your life. When the traveler meets a band of gypsies, the traveler stops to dance in the early morning hours. Sometimes we get so caught up in wondering what's around the next bend and worrying about our current challenges that we forget to focus on what's great in the moment. You are not meant to simply work hard and be diligent and practical. Embrace pleasure wherever you can. Allow your senses to be satiated. Find and explore the beauty around you. Sorry, braces. In case you didn't catch that last word, it's satiated. Sorry. Sometimes on the S words, the braces kick in. Allow your senses to be satiated. Find and explore the beauty around you. You don't need to suffer to grow. Ooh, I'm going to read that again. You don't need to suffer to grow. You can grow spiritually by leaps and bounds through joy. Dance, eat well, and drink well. Share joy wherever you can. Wow, that is so appropriate. Like I said, if you're at this point of the year going, I can't remember how I really got here, then the idea of savoring your life is really important. It's about being present to the moment and to what's around you and being grateful for things. And I know when it's not a great time in life, it's hard to be grateful. I really, really understand that. I really do. Like I've said before, in the last year and a half or so, or year, almost 2 years, just everything has hit the fan for me, and it's been huge amounts of upheaval. So grounding has been really important, and I've been trying to focus more on what's going right and what is positive and to the little things. And to remember, like it says here, you are not meant to simply work hard and be diligent and practical. And when there's upheaval in your life, or when things aren't working the way you want them to, you feel like you have to work harder and push harder to make things happen, but that's not really true. Yes, you need to make an effort and take action, but if you're pushing too hard, then you're focusing too hard on what you want, and you're actually repelling it, not attracting it, because you're not allowing it to come in the way it wants to come in. You're forcing it to try to come in the way you want it. And you can't know what's going to happen in the future and what is the best way for something to come to you. It may come in a form that you didn't expect but is absolutely perfect. And if you push too hard for what you think should happen, then that other way from the other direction can't come in. So, how is your life full right now? What are the things that make you happy right now? How can you savor your life right now? What can you do for the next 6 months to enjoy your life and enjoy working toward whatever goals you had at the start of the year that maybe you are reevaluating now? And don't beat yourself up about not reaching goals or not being close to them or feeling like this isn't really what you wanted and you're going to give it up. You should not beat yourself up about that, because again, you don't need to suffer to grow. So another question here is, for the next 6 months, in terms of where you're going, how can you move from suffering to savoring? What mindset do you have, and how can you change that? What mindset do you need? What actions can you take? What can you let go of? How can you move from suffering to savoring? These are your 2 cards for where you've been, or just looking back on where you've been through the filter of this card of create. Did you create what you wanted this year? Is it still what you want? What kind of life do you want to create for the next 6 months? And then this card of passion and pleasure and savoring life. How can you savor life more and have less suffering? And if it's been a year of suffering so far, how can you focus more on savoring? How can you find the good things? Because if you focus on the good things, they will expand and you will see more of the good and you will feel less suffering. And also take these cards as literally as you like. Like if you are an artist or you are a writer, then what do you want to create? You could journal about your project if that's what you're called to. For example. Okay, so let's spend the next 10 minutes doing some journaling. So we've passed the 10 minutes. You're welcome to pause the video and keep going, or keep going after the video ends if you want to listen to the rest. Feel free to share some of what you wrote in the comments if you feel comfortable. Whether it feels negative or positive, it doesn't matter. Journaling is not a place to be relentlessly positive. Just, there are all levels and you can certainly spend time feeling difficult feelings and negative feelings and struggling with that. This is your space and your time to feel and think and write and say to yourself whatever you need to. So, I'm obviously, as you guys know, I'm a writer, and I haven't worked as much on the book that's coming out. Whenever I get this stuff done, it'll come out. The publisher is being very accommodating, which is one of the perks of working with a small press. And I just found the person to design the cover, and I'm really excited. She's fantastic, but also has reasonable prices. So that's exciting. So small steps, but I haven't gotten as far this year as I expected to get myself. And this card made me feel hopeful about that it's okay to take the time that I need to take. I mean, thinking of how long it takes the light from stars to reach the earth. So, okay, I'm calming down about that. Not beating myself up about that. I still made strides. And I'm close, so that's good. And for me, the card about the future was reminding me that, in just a few months, it's going to start turning colder again. It's going to be winter again. And while I am a fan of fall, I'm not a fan of summer. That I do need to, even just metaphorically speaking, take this card to heart and not be working so hard. I just switched jobs in March, and it's been like drinking from a fire hose, but it's starting to slow down a bit, and at least for a little while. And so I need to take advantage of that and pull back and set more boundaries about my time, and spend more time doing the things that I want to do. And to that end, I just recently put in for vacation to take a trip with a friend of mine that I haven't seen in a year, and neither one of us can do something long or extravagant, but we do not want to do it in the US, so we're going to Montreal. So it's kind of, it's somewhat international, so that's nice. And I'm turning it into a road trip for me because I love road trips, and I love being alone in the car for hours and listening to podcasts or books on tape or just thinking in the silence. And I get a lot of writing ideas and solve a lot of writing problems while I'm driving. And don't worry, well, I used to write them in a notebook while I was driving, but now I just record them on my phone. Much safer, but it's also kind of meditative for me to be driving, and it's only like an 8-hour drive, so super easy. And for me, traveling allows me to step outside my life and take stock and see it for what it is, and see what I need to let go of, and see what I still need to do and what I need to keep working toward, and also gives me just a break from all of it, and allows me to see that I am really free. I'm not tied down by all my decisions and choices and commitments. I am really free, and I can make other choices. And freedom is really important to me. It's not my word for the year, but it's kind of always my word for the year, is how can I create more freedom in my life, more openings in my life to do the things I want to do without having to plan, just to have more space. So those are some of the things that came up for me. Feel free to share what came up for you in the comments. And even if it made you sad or mad, share it. Other people may want to comment too. You might open the door for other people to comment and support you and feel themselves supported as well. Whatever you're doing to create and to savor your life, I send you my best wishes, and keep journaling. And to that end, happy writing.